Hello, everybody. This is America's Supermom, and I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of Corona Chronicles Live. I'm so excited to be here today. Today has just started off just way better than I can even have anticipated. So, for those of you who may be joining me for the first time, you might want to look on my channel and see what happened this morning. I was scheduled to do a 30-minute interview with someone over business topics, and it totally went in a different direction that really was an eye-opening experience for me. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to do a quick intro. My name is Lachelle Atkins, also known as America's Supermom. The story behind that name is that my husband and I have 15 children. Yes, you heard me right, 15. So it is never a dull moment around our household. This show, Corona Chronicles Live, is really just an opportunity for you to hear from other entrepreneurs about their journey, especially now as we're challenging this navigation through this global pandemic. What is it going to look like for 2021? Everybody is just pretty much saying, I'm done with 2020. Nothing good came out of 2020. I'm looking forward to 2021. But what does that look like? So I'm always telling my kids, clients, everybody who interacts with me is that, yes, we can have these great ideas for a better tomorrow, but we have to have an action plan. How are we going to implement this new utopia that we're all hoping for? We have to have a strategy, a plan of attack. So this is why we're having guests come on to talk about ways that they've pivoted, how they have reinvented themselves, what they're learning, their insights, so that the people who are on the road to a better 2021 from the very beginning, before we even get there, we are connecting so that we can give hope and just positivity to those who are out there listening. So my guest has joined us, and I am going to add him on with me at this time. So, hey, Evans.
Hey, how are you? It's exciting
Good.
to
First,
see you.
I'm excited. First, I want to publicly say I am so sorry about our first interview schedule we had. And, life happens, you guys. So I love it where I get to be the one with cake on my face, right? Because, I was missing our first appointment, but, he was gracious enough to reschedule. And so I'm really excited to have you here and just want to acknowledge you for that, because it definitely didn't go unnoticed. And so I'm really grateful that you were able to carve out some time for us to connect again.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. But, like you said, this happens, we're in this world. We have technology issues. Sometimes we are talking to some guest that is just amazing and it goes over a little bit. So we all have to be a little flexible and a little understanding. So it is no problem at all. I'm sure I've done it many a times to some of my guests as well. So
Definitely.
I'm just glad to be here, and I appreciate you having me on. So thank you.
Oh, well, this is awesome. So I'm just going to give the audience a little background. So Evans and I have never met. I happened to watch him on a Facebook Live with Michelle Abraham. So I was on Michelle's show. Michelle and I are connected through V-Team Referral Network. And that's a networking group where we come together, get a lot of networking opportunities, as well as training through, what's it like to have a podcast. She did a presentation at one of our global summits going over that very topic. And what you were saying really resonated. It was very inspiring. And so I just immediately reached out and was like, hey, I want to have you on my show to share your insights with my audience. So that's how we got connected. So before we get into the interview with some of these questions, I'm going to give you the opportunity, Evans, to introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. Well, I sort of wish I knew what I'd said now and I had it like in a nice little bottle so I could pull it out every time, right? You must have hit me on one of those days where I was full of inspiration, but no, I'll do my best to sort of to reinvent that on your show
Right.
today. But like you said, my name's Evans Putman, and Michelle, who you mentioned, amazing, amazing entrepreneur, amazing person. And she is the perfect person to come teach about podcasting. And we are actually co-founders of a new business called My Podcast Coach. And we come from two separate sort of sides of the story when it comes to podcasts. She actually calls herself the optimizer, and I'm the monetizer, because I come from a background where I worked with a client who eventually became a business partner of mine. And I've been in the online world for about 20 years now, which is hard to believe for me when I start looking back at it. But I have my first online business was back almost 20 years to this date. And back before social media, before any of this easy stuff. I mean, people, it's like, I feel like one of those old guys now. These kids just don't know how easy they have it, right? But
So true. So true.
But we met, I'll fast forward to about 2 years ago, and I was working with this client and I was a marketing consultant and strategist was what I was doing at the time. And he had a podcast. And I went in and started working with him, and he had a desire to grow that podcast. And I dug a little deeper and found out that his desire was also to create digital courses to sell, because he had been very successful. And here's the key. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to work with him. He didn't want to sell these courses to make a bunch of money. He had already been very successful. He didn't start his podcast to make a bunch of money. But what he had was a message and experience that had changed his life. And he wanted to help others achieve the same dreams that he had achieved, which was basically working 3.5, 4 days max, but getting to spend time with his family and watch his daughters grow up. And that really connected with me, because I had a daughter at the time who was probably 4 or 5 in that range. And I had the same sort of desires where I didn't want to be that father who worked all the time and never got to spend time with my children. Or I only have one, so my child, my daughter. Unlike, we're like two polar opposites there, I already know. So, but just to fast forward a little bit more, the reason Michelle and I connected was I had this story where I helped him grow that podcast to where we got it to averaging 150,000 listeners every month. Wow. And we took it from $0 in revenue in the first 12 months, from zero to $500,000 over that 12-month time span. And it was all organic, no paid ads, all just through a system that I created with his help, with his, I would say, with his willingness to not have a string pulling me back, just letting me say, okay, we're going to try this. And he's like, okay, go for it. And which was great, because it taught me a lot about failure and how it's okay to fail, to just use that as a data point and then learn from it and move on to the next thing. And he was great at that. So I still, even though we no longer work together, because I sort of had a calling to take that experience and then move forward and start sharing that with other entrepreneurs who have big positive messages and missions. Because I was like, if I can help him do what we did with him, now imagine the positive effect I could put out in the world if I could help 100 other people or 1,000 other people. And that's how Michelle and I met, because we were in a discussion in a Facebook group and just randomly connected. And I was launching a new podcast, so I invited her to be on mine. She had hers. She invited me to be on hers. And it was such a great way to connect and to get to meet each other and have a relationship start, a business relationship, that probably almost about 8 months later is when we decided, we just stayed in contact, and we decided, we both have two skill sets in the same niche and love to work with the same type of entrepreneurs, the same type of people. So what if we were to take our two skills and bring them together? So it's a perfect fit, because like you said, she's Michelle, the optimizer, the podcast optimizer, and I'm Evans, the podcast monetizer. So it fits in perfectly together. And we've got a great group of people that we get to work with. And we just launched a new group coaching program. We're in week 2, was yesterday, the first day. And it's been a blast to work with these people and help them out.
Yeah, so many different questions I have from that little small introduction. Okay, so the
Well,
first
we're both
thing,
from the South, so you might have to reel me in, because sometimes I start to tell, like my mom would be proud because I would start to tell some stories like she does. So,
no. But that's how you get people engaged, right?
right.
But the first thing is, you mentioned 20 years ago, starting this journey where, we didn't have podcasts like we have now. So I like to remind the audience of this. So what you were doing was pivoting to something that was not in existence like it is today. So you were willing to take the road less traveled. So going back with that mindset, because people are in this place now, it's like, they held onto their jobs because they felt it was stability. This was their identity. They've worked there for 20 years and boom, COVID hits. And now they don't have that safety net or that security anymore. So now they have to do just as you did 20 years ago. But now it's the pressure of, I've created this legacy for my family. I have to uphold this. We got real bills and all this other stuff, so the mindset that you had to have back then. Walk us through some things that can really help somebody who's listening about being willing or the steps they have to take to do something that's different than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. And it's, well, here it's funny because if you go back to, I'll just go back, like 3-4 years when I first started working with this business and with this podcast with who became my partner in the business, Pat Hyben. It was Real Estate Rock Stars with Pat Hyben was the name of the business. But right before that, I can feel where a lot of these people are coming from, because I was working as a marketing strategist and consultant. And I was my wife was working at the time too as a general manager at a really nice restaurant here in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was great for me because I got to spend time with my young daughter, but it was exhausting because and I give her all the props because she would get home at 2:30, 3 in the morning late because of working at that restaurant. And then I would get up to work, but she would get up bright and early so I could start bright and early. At the time, I started really making a good amount of money. And there was a point where I was like, look, you can come home now and you don't need to work. We can sort of settle because I'm making more money than I've ever made. And we made that decision. And within 2 weeks at the most, I'd gotten lazy. I had 3 clients. 2 of them were paying me, the majority of the money I was making for various reasons. That one of them was a nonprofit. They lost some of their grant money and funding. So they had to, they're like, we're sorry, but we can't continue the contract. The other one had to quit the contract for other reasons with their business. I found myself staring down the barrel of all these bills and mortgage and everything, like the things that people are going through. And I had one client, and it was barely enough to pay the utility bills because that wasn't the client I was focused on. So here's what I would tell everybody. When that happened to me, my mindset at first was, woe is me. I'll admit it. It was like, oh my, what have I done? And I gave myself a day to feel sorry for myself. And then I just told myself, I'm like, I've got skills. I've been able to go out and find clients before. And these people that maybe they've lost their job, if you start thinking differently about what is all that experience that you've had over time, things that other people don't know. And you may not realize that now because you're so used to being in that comfort zone of going to the same job every day, getting the paycheck, not having to expand out of your comfort zone. But the thing is that like what I did was I just reminded myself I have things that people need. And that's when I reached back out and ended up getting the biggest break of my life, was taking this contract with Pat Hyben and with his podcast. And the funny thing is that he was looking for somebody to write show notes. And that was something that I would have done probably 10 years earlier. And it was way like, I don't want to sound like, I'm way up here, but it was way below I was way below my pay grade. It was something that I could easily do, but I was like, because I came from a writing background, but I was like, this is not what I do now. And I sort of skimmed over it, but something kept telling me that to find out more. And so I ended up actually reaching back out to him. And that's where that led to more and more. And then I did some digging and found out he wanted a lot more. But if I wouldn't have listened to my intuition, which is what I would tell people, sit, take the time to, take a few breaths, relax, listen to that inner voice in your head that is probably telling you, hey, this is this thing that you've always been chosen to do. You have this gift. You have this message. You may not realize it, but you have something that you can offer. So now's your opportunity to get into entrepreneurship and start building your own business, getting out there and doing it. In today's world, it is so easy. Now, I'm not going to say it's like easy in the fact that you won't face a lot of obstacles and failures, but with the way technology is and the access of everything we have, you can easily create something, sell your knowledge online, sell yourself as a consultant, chase that dream you've always wanted to chase. Maybe you've wanted to be a life coach or a business coach or something like that. The opportunities are out there, but you just have to remind yourself, and you can get caught up in the self-talk of, woe is me, I lost my job, how am I going to, and then, the stress, and I understand all that. But if you really focus on telling yourself the right things and thinking about, I had somebody talk to me the other day about this, that we need to learn to not just be grateful for things out here, but be grateful for what we have inside of ourselves too. Yes. And most of us do not. When we sit down, if you do gratitude, and I was like, this is amazing. I never thought of that, because I write 5 things I'm grateful for at a minimum every morning in my journal. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm grateful for all this stuff out here, but when have I ever told myself I'm grateful for the growth and the things that I've done myself? So I would just say that's a big mindset shift for people when you're going through, a traumatic thing like losing your job and knowing you have to pay the bills and knowing you have a family to support, but know that you have something in you that you can put out there, and just start thinking about, what is that thing I really like doing? Who would I like to serve? And and you don't have to be an expert, as you probably know too. It's like, people want to connect with people just a few steps ahead of them on the journey. They don't want to connect with somebody who's at the top of the mountain already. So you know things that other people don't know how to do. So figure out how you can sell it and go out there and start creating a business and change some lives, because people are out there wanting what you have to offer, whether it's just one person, 2 people, and then it'll just continue to grow and grow and grow.
I love that. And, that is so true. It's not that you have to be the poster person for whatever situation you're talking about. And it's about a mindset. So, walk us through the questions that we should be asking ourselves, because, when you have those gifts, those things you're passionate about, there is a struggle with figuring out how to monetize it, because we get into this comparison, well, Tony Robbins, he does this and he's making all this money. I can't be a coach, and so it's not about the vocation, it's about your message. So what question should we be asking to hone in on taking the principles that Tony Robbins may have and applying those principles to our message so that we can monetize it. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the thing is okay, this is something that I wasn't expecting to go too far in this direction, but when I stopped working with Pat, when I decided I'd sort of had that tap on the shoulder, that calling to sort of get out and share it with other people, I spent a lot of time like focusing on myself, meditating, gratitude practice, things like that. And one of the things that came, like there were some words that came to me one day, and they formed my new coaching program the framework of it. And those are rise, shine, simplify, and serve. And so the first one of those words, rise, is rise into your authentic self. So that's where I would tell people, and I'm sure Tony would say the same thing. And it's funny that you brought his name up for a different reason that I don't want to get in too deep right now, but I'll share it in a minute.
If you know him, tell him to come on the show.
No, I don't know him, unfortunately, but no, but I would tell people, just don't compare. Don't start looking out there and saying, well, look at all these people, they're doing this and they have this and this person's pretty successful. Just think about what's your authentic self, what's your truth, because your message that you have, the gift inside of you, somebody out there needs it. And you will be surprised. And, one of the great things that I have found, the biggest connection and the thing I like about podcasts is that it's given me the opportunity to sort of rise into my authentic self and grow a lot and share my story with other people. And I know that message gets out there and affects people because I've had them tell me and reach out to me. But just that little act of building that network has been amazing. So that's one of the biggest things I would tell people is, start, getting clear for once. I mean, this is a lot of times for me, I would immediately chase that next thing because somebody had a paycheck for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to get that. But I purposefully spent like my first 3 to 6 months not chasing the next thing because I knew I'd get taken off track. So be patient with yourself, listen to that inner voice inside of you, and you'll feel that little level of excitement around certain things. And when you feel that, that's probably a good indicator that you're on the right path. And so those are things that you can ask yourself. Does this feel right? Who is the kind of person that I want to serve? And it's funny because I heard a podcast this morning about that exact question from Russell Brunson, who is the founder of ClickFunnels, a very, very successful person. And he said one of his biggest mistakes when he stepped into the entrepreneurial world was to think about what he could create to give people. Think about the product first, but instead he said what he's learned over time is that created a lot of headaches for him because he ended up working with a lot of people he didn't want to, and he wasn't as successful. So he flipped the switch and started thinking about who is that person I want to help? What did they look like? Do they connect with me the same, principles, the same things that I believe in? What do they look like? And here's the funny thing that I can tell a lot of people that I've discovered is that person generally looks like you maybe a year ago in your past. So a lot of times that person that we're meant to serve is just the person that was maybe 6 months, 8 months, 12 months behind and just aren't the same, because we're constantly moving forward and growing, but that person is just us, 12 months ago. So that's a great way to look at it. So you really have to like focus on not comparing, not getting out there, not chasing shiny objects, and just really taking a few moments to really think about what it is that you want, who you want to serve, and then what do they want, what do they need, and then you can give that to them because you have a gift, you have something that somebody out there is going to need. You just have to trust in yourself that you can deliver that.
I love that. And, it's so good to think back to your authentic self. I was on a call today with an individual with SurveyMonkey. So, I have different platforms to kind of do surveys and everything. And so she is a representative talking about how it's important for businesses and stuff. And, once you really know what it is you do, you understand yourself, you can begin to say yes and no to things that don't serve you. You
Mhm.
can eliminate the stress. I really think about Steve Jobs, and it's like, he had a uniform of how he dressed. He wasn't sitting up here thinking about, well, what am I going to put on today? He made it simple. So he used his thought and willpower for things that really made a difference, like creating a smartphone that still lives beyond him and he's gone. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Really creating a legacy. So,
And I'll
talk to,
say this I want to say, because you mentioned that word simple, and that's very important. And that
Mhm.
was one of the words that came to me, was simplify. Because when we simplify, we can grow so much faster and do the important things, like you said. But
Yeah.
it really, starting a business can seem very complicated, like an online business. But in reality, you just discover who you want to serve. Think about what you have to offer that person that can help them get the thing they need, whether it's help a business get leads, whether it's help somebody write something, whether it's, just speaking to somebody to help create a transformation with their mindset, whatever that is. It can be that simple.
Yeah.
Then jump on Facebook and talk about it. Go
So
on a
true.
podcast and talk about it. Set up a landing page with a way to capture an email. Reach out, let's get on a call, and then there you've got your first one or two clients.
So
So
true. And I think, we overcomplicate things,
yeah.
and that's just like, well, this person is offering this, so maybe I should offer it. You get so far away. It's like that game Telephone, where you tell a secret to somebody and it goes around the room. Everybody whispers in each other's ear, and you come back with the message that was totally different.
Right.
Like you started with, right? You start with banana, you end up with igloo or something crazy. So,
Right.
this is what happens to us in business. We start off, we're like, yeah, I want to do this for my client. And before you end up, you've got, you're a concierge, you're trying to do catering and all this stuff, following the next best thing. And you look crazy, right?
Yeah. And I've been guilty of it too. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't until recently that I started thinking, I was like, okay, what's the most simple thing that will quit complicating everything for me? Because if my goal is to have freedom, to create a business that gives me freedom, the less moving parts and the less complications, the better. So the simpler, the better. And that's what I
Right.
think a lot of people, like you mentioned, they see what these other people are doing. They're launching something every other month. They're, creating all these
Yeah.
complicated products and funnels and things. And that's great when you have the bandwidth to have that and you have a big team, maybe, but maybe you don't even want that. Maybe you just want to have the time to spend with your family while still making enough money to do
Right.
that, to thrive, and you have a purpose that you want to serve. Follow your own path,
Yes.
just, and simplify it, like you said,
So
simplify.
true. I love that because, I was just thinking about something today. I have a group of people that I'm getting ready to work with. And normally, you hear these different proposals or formulas that people say, well, you get your email list and then you do this campaign and you do all this and you go through this process of thinking how you're going to implement that when you can just simply send somebody a message through Messenger. Create a group through Messenger. You do the same thing. It's quick and it gets done, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
we get into these formulas and ways that should be done off of somebody else's blueprint, and it doesn't feel authentic to us. It creates more work, so much so that we procrastinate and then we never even get started when we had a good
Right.
idea that we could have implemented a different way. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And I can
So we
vouch for
second guess.
I can vouch for that 100%, because I was just talking about the coaching program that we just launched,
Mhm.
our beta coaching program, and we didn't want to like go out and bring a whole lot of people into it. We wanted to keep it to the people we knew.
Right.
And so we did create a landing page and we talked about it and we drove people there. But as we when it got down to brass tacks, we did exactly what you said. I would get on Messenger because I knew these people. They were in our group, that I interacted with them. I just sent them a message. It was like, hey, this is going to help you. I know it will. I wouldn't be reaching out otherwise. We'd love for you to join us. If you don't think it's going to help you, then you're not going to hurt my feelings, but let me know if you have any questions. And that's how we got the majority of our coaching clients in there, because we were authentic. We had a conversation.
Exactly.
A real conversation with the voice.
True.
So it was amazing.
True. Yeah. So it's like you build up this idea of going deeper, having better relationships with people, but then you go back to the traditional way of doing things that separates you. You kind of lose some of that warmness and that credibility that you've built up, because you're going down the path that worked for somebody else who may not have even started where you're at, because we're looking at different pieces of people's journey and thinking that it can apply to all things. And so I think that was just so key, spot on that you brought that up. So this is the thing. You have Michelle yourself. She's the optimizer. You're the monetizer. Talking to us about how you have differences, but how your similarities and commonness can help you come together and work. Because, that's just like, you're a male, I'm a female, you have a different journey when it comes to podcasting as opposed to mine, but we're able to connect and really give value over the message. So a lot of people can get in their own way about that. Well, they're not like me. They don't say it the way I say it or whatever. So for people who are in that space where you need to collaborate, you know what I mean? You're starting ground zero. So if you come together and do that with a team, or, how do they overcome that barrier?
Yeah, it's one thing that I can speak from experience. It's tough for me is to ask for help. And I just had to get over that,
Right.
But I joined a coaching program that sort of brought me out of my comfort zone. But what it also did was it also showed me that there's a lot of other people that are going through what I'm going through, that have similar, that they're in a room, not interacting with a lot of people, working on their own business all the time. So you really just have to start learning to ask for help and to let people know what you're doing, because I guarantee you that, maybe let's say you lost your job but you've got this idea that you've always wanted to do. Like I have a friend who, this is a great example. She was a mom. She was working. She ended up having to come home during the COVID thing. I don't know the whole background story, but she didn't have her job anymore. So she started making cookies. She started selling cookies. I talked to him last week, and we were in a coaching Zoom. We're both actually co-authors in a book that's coming out called $1 Million Dads. That's about fatherhood and entrepreneurhood. But
we'll have to have you come back on when that comes out.
Oh, thank you. And what he shared just blew me away, because this went from just, she was like, I've always had this idea, and I don't know what there's some kind of special cookies that she's making. They have to be. She's done amazingly, but she put together these kits, right? Because people would always ask her, how do you make that? And she's like, oh, it's easy to do. So she took that, which was just known to a few people in her physical, local world. And now the last month they were expecting a $50,000 plus gross month selling these cookie kits online. And this all happened within about 4 months, because she just went out, she started doing it, was letting people that she knew locally, hey, remember how you always wanted me to do this? Guess what? Now I've got the time to do it. I'm going to put together some little packages, and it's almost like a kit where you get it and it's got everything you need with the directions, the videos on how to make them and everything. And, but that's how she started, right? Just with the people she knew, and let them know what was going on. Hey, do you know anybody that might want this? And they're like, yeah, sure. I've got friends that I know would love this. They've got kids and they'd love to be able to make these cookies. So it all just started from there to where now it's 50,000 gross revenue. and they don't have a lot of overhead, he was saying, but
Right.
month, and they're expecting before the end of the year to be close to 100,000 a month before we get to January 1. So they're going to close out the year going from where she was working a job, lost her job to now having, $1 million business, doing something she always loved to do, just because she started reaching out to local people and saying, "Hey, would you like some of these cookies?" They're like, "Yeah, we'd love it." So start with, just tell people and ask for help. Let them know what you're doing, and you'd be amazed. You'll get 1 or 2 clients, and it just sort of builds and grows from there. And here's the thing: when you do move into this, get those first 1 or 2 people, give them more attention than you would ever give anybody else. Make sure you serve them, like, over deliver, give them a lot of value, give them the success that they needed when they hired you. Then get them on something like what we're doing and do a quick interview with them. Like, "Hey, where were you before we started working together? What was it like? What pain points? Where did you want to go? Where are you now?" Take that, put that on your website or wherever you do it, on social media, use those for success stories, and then it just steamrolls from there.
Love that. That is so good because, this is where we have to be. We have to begin to get back to the simple life, get back to the things that, it's just the thing of getting started. That's just really the key, is getting started, because nothing that you even envision ends up being the way that you imagine it, especially being a parent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And,
they don't say babies and fit in your arm forever. It's like, oh, they're so cute, not doing anything. They get to talking back and, get in your pocket. You look up, you're spending this and that, is prom and boyfriends. I mean, hey, it can go on and on, right?
Well, I'm sticking with the one, so I'm not even going anywhere near where you're at.
Yes. So talk to us about, I can be talking forever, so I'm going to get to wrapping this up, but the collaboration for the book, how you are able to expand your reach and having a mindset to do that, because sometimes people get to the point, just like many people are stuck now, and it is harder to kind of go back and revisit, what are your skills? What are things you like? So the fact that you are exploring, partnerships with Michelle, you have a book, what kind of things do you do in your routine that kind of makes you flexible enough to see the perspective of the opportunities more so than staying in a comfort zone?
Well, it definitely all started with focusing on, getting a good morning routine that included and keeping it a routine. I saw something the other day, not to aspire to do something, because when you aspire to do something, you can quickly, like, that flame can burn out quickly, but inspire, when you feel that inspiration to do it, you'll stick with it. So I get up in the mornings, and I would drink water. I drink like about 34 ounces of water right off the bat. Do some meditation, some gratitude practice, listen to something on like a podcast that was more not business related, but maybe more spiritually related, something like that, personal growth. So take a little bit of time like that, and then start thinking about serving other people. Going on, like, I make it a point sometimes when I feel like I'm losing momentum, a lot of times I'll just go online into some of the groups that I'm in, and coaching groups, and somebody's like launched a new product and they go like, "Hey, I just launched my new thing. I'm excited." And I go in there and start, I don't just give them a like, I don't give them a thumbs up. I go and leave a real comment and be like, "Hey, that's awesome. I'm so excited for you." And start just putting yourself out that way, thinking of others first and how you can serve them. Because one of the biggest things I did was doing that over time. It built up like this bank for me. It was almost as if I was investing in these things coming back to me, where people now, like, I can't tell you how over this past month and a half, it's been nonstop with, "Hey, I've heard so many things about you. I've got to get you on my summit that I'm doing. I'm launching this new virtual summit. I got to have you on it. And it's not because I was out there talking about myself, but because I was out there congratulating others and always asking how I could help them. So I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotta love technology.
Yeah. Yeah, you did freeze a little bit on me. But what I would say, though, to that point,
So
you're
I
asking
think
getting out of you're asking about getting out of your
so
comfort
that
zone.
technology, it'd be.
I was just going to say, you asked
Can you
about
hear
getting
us
out
now?
getting out of your comfort zone. That is like the way to do it, to stop focusing on yourself and start focusing on helping others.
Right. I love that. Yeah, this is so true because as you give back, it is like therapy, to be able to help other people and recognize it also helps you keep things in perspective. You know, things don't
Mhm.
turn into mountains when you're around other people and hear their situation and, they pour into you, you pour into them. It helps you keep things in the right kind of perspective, because it's so easy when the lights are out for everything to look like a monster, right? But if
Mhm.
you're in a position of being around the right people, hey, you know what? That's just the shadow of the doorknob or whatever, they keep you grounded. So
Yeah.
that is really a good point. So, what is the best way for everybody to get a hold of you, to sign up for your course and things like that?
Well, right now, I always tell people come on Facebook just to find my profile, because that way we can actually, talk on Messenger or whatever and have a conversation. Whereas if you go to my page, you may never see my posts. We may not ever connect. So if you come to Facebook and just go to Evans Putman, and if you look for Evans Putman, there's two of us, and one of them's my page and one of them's me. But just go send me a friend request, and I'll definitely like to connect. And then if you want to reach out to me on Messenger, just don't try to sell me Bitcoin investments or anything like that. We'll have a real conversation, but that's one way. And then I would also say, if you're interested in launching and growing a business and you're starting fresh from the start, you can go to get this great client case study that I have, this video, and that's of my past business and partner, Pat, where we took him from zero. I mean, no online experience. He had no digital marketing experience, no list, no revenue. And we took it to $500,000 the first 12 months. So you can go, you have to, give me your email address and you'll get the free video. You can watch it. And there's actually some teaching in there as well. So it lays out the framework of how we did this. So it's that you can find at dreamclientsforlife.com/Pat. So it's dreamclientsforlife.com/Pat. But that's free, and it's a great way just to, and once you watch it, there's a little button there, you can click it and reach out to me and, see if it's potential good opportunity for us to work together to help you further. But either way, the information in that video is going to lay out a framework for how you can simply get started. And it's just a 4-step framework, so it doesn't overcomplicate things.
I love that. That's good. So this has just been wonderful. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and, our schedules worked out and, you weren't mad at me or nothing. You know what I mean?
Never. How could I be? Especially, not with the outfit like that. I can't get angry.
It's
Plus,
damage control. Look, I was thinking ahead of time.
Plus, you got 15 kids, so I figure you know how to handle like somebody that's having a tantrum. So there's no use having a tantrum, right?
I'm loving it. Yes, that is so true. So, what final words would you like to share with the audience today? I mean, this has just been very informative.
It's this was something I wrote down the other day, and it's not in no way does it come from, I'll tell you what we should do is we should circle back to that Tony Robbins thing real quick. And let me
Okay.
share
Okay.
this with everybody, because this
Okay.
was in the book. I was reading my draft of my chapter, and I ran across this story. That's why I said it was funny right before I got on here. And then you mentioned this, but
Okay.
there's something in there that I talk about during my meditation one time. This story came to me with Tony Robbins in it. And I tell people this story now because it's really important for them to get over the imposter syndrome, comparison syndrome thing that we discussed. That, let's say we're on this bridge overlooking a slow moving river below us, and I'm standing next to Tony Robbins, and he's sitting there with, all of his experience, everything he's ever done. And it's this big, huge boulder. And then there I am with my little golf ball size rock, right? And you would think, what if we're going to both drop these in the water, the experience is going to be different. But so he drops his first, it hits the water, there's a big splash, but the ripples go out all the way to the shore. And they go a little fast and a little big. So I'm sitting there, wait till the water clears. I drop my rock down in there. Guess what happens? The ripples go all the way to the shore. So that is something for you to think about, that you can create just as big a positive impact in the world with the positive ripples with what you do, sharing one story and sharing your story, your authentic truth, compared to even somebody like Tony Robbins. So you don't have to be at that point yet. So just get started, because there's somebody out there that you're going to help and you're going to change their life. So it doesn't matter if you have a pebble, a rock, a boulder, or whatever it is, they all create the same ripple effect, no matter the size.
And I love that story because, what you focus on grows, right? We all have a story. We all have a history, a past, whatever it is that we need to put to rest, the self-doubt. But when we take action, and we focus on that, that's what matters. And that's what people have been able to do, is focus on the impact rather than the humanness that some of these celebrities or people that have a great impact have found.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What you focus on grows. So if we want to focus on that impact, we need to focus on that and not get distracted with the things that affect all of us. Who hasn't had a flat tire or, had something else happen to them, in their family? It's going to happen, but it's our response and how we choose to look at that. The perspective can be everything,
It definitely is. That's like Shawn. I don't know if you know Shawn Stevenson. He's known as the 3-foot giant.
Yeah.
He passed away. It's been almost a little over a year now. But right as he was, on his deathbed, he told his wife just to remember that this was not done to him; it was done for him. And I was like, that was just that exactly that. Relates exactly with what you were saying. Don't think about things as being done to you, but they're done for you. So you can take that experience and then grow from it, and then share how you grew from it with somebody who's going through it as well. Yeah.
This has been great. Well, I'm looking forward to a part 2 with the book when it comes out. When is it coming out?
I think right before Thanksgiving. So I just got my chapter today to review and get back to them. And then I got to make a few minor edits, but then it's myself and I think 7 other entrepreneurial fathers. So we're each contributing a chapter to it, and it's going to be a fun book to read. I'm looking forward to reading. And there's, what's crazy is that one of these guys in this book is somebody that 3 years ago, I saw him at an event, and he was like somebody who I looked at as, way down the path. And I thought about, but I also connected with his whole way of doing business, like earn more to give more was his, I think that's paraphrasing his statement. But I told myself one day, I was like, one day I'm going to have to meet him to tell him, how his messaging all affected me and everything. And now we're in the same book together,
Isn't that
with
awesome?
6 other authors. So I was like, how cool is that, it just sort of comes around just to,
Full circle.
and like you said, it would never happen if you don't say yes and you don't start moving, taking
So
action and
true.
saying yes,
Yeah. And, staying focused on that mission,
Mhm.
persevering even when it doesn't look like it. I mean, just like you mentioned, going in those groups and not just liking stuff, but making a comment, giving people value even when they're not expecting it. Those are the
Mhm.
things that, and I always go through sometimes and you scroll and it's like somebody might have 1,000 likes, but nobody's commenting.
Right.
So it's like I tell people that's free real estate because what are
Mhm.
people going to do? They definitely will take time to read 2 or 3 comments. Now, if it's like
Yeah.
100 comments or 1,000 comments, they're going to be like, look, I don't have time to listen to that. But 1 or 2 or 3, they're definitely going to read those. So that's real estate for you with whatever business you have. If
Yeah.
you have a hashtag, put that in there. So we just want to give them that extra little marketing tip.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome. And then, on top of that is, it's like anything else, give without the expectation, just go into it
Yes.
authentically. And you said the key word was to give them immense amount of value in
So
that
true.
comment. Don't just
Yes.
say like, good job, but, good job. This is why, hey, did you ever think about doing this? And leave an open-ended question as well, so they can start a little conversation with you. So
So true. Yeah.
we'll end with 2 marketing tips.
Yeah, that's good.
Yours and then mine. So we combined. See, we did that. We collaborated. Perfect.
Hey,
Perfect
collaborated.
ending.
Love it. Well, thanks so much, Evans, for coming on. And this has really been wonderful. I'm looking forward to part 2, excited about the book, and wish you much success. And then your coaching program. And I
Thank
encourage
you.
everybody, follow him. Look at some of his case studies, testimonials. It's about really connecting with people that resonate with you. It's about getting that value from people that are approachable and you feel comfortable being vulnerable, because if we're not vulnerable, we're not going to get the right solutions to the problems that we're having, so
Yeah.
we want to be able to find something, that a strategy that's going to work for us as individuals. So thanks again, Evans, for your input. And we want to thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys the next time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Grateful for the opportunity.
You are so welcome.